So, Barbara, you are the queen of frameworks. You have been in
Yeah,
business over 20 years,
yeah,
started multiple companies,
yeah,
and out of all the frameworks you have either relied on or created,
yeah,
what's that one framework that you think
yeah.
any founder must have?
It's funny that somehow I got the label without doing anything for it, but everybody started saying it. So now I'm like, I might as well own it and just go with it. So maybe a T-shirt is in the works for that. But I think one of the main frameworks that I've used in my business, and in many ways actually in life in general, is this idea that we will, as a society, will shift through different ages because the way that we interact with each other, the way that we interact online, the way that we even consider our relationships has changed over time. And so, don't worry, this will make sense for business in a second. But I give this example very often. Like when you think of when the internet just started, we now have access to a lot of information. So you've heard it before, information age. That's where we are. Great, awesome. I can go online, I can search for something, and now I can have access to it. And in that age, socially, we were exchanging time as the currency. So what I notice is like there's always a currency that we're exchanging with each other. And that was the one a few years ago. Well, eventually social media kicks in, and now you have all sorts of things happening, right? Now I have a YouTube channel, I can share, I can like, I can
Way
comment.
too much information.
Way too much, yeah.
Yeah.
So now quantity became the problem because now you have so much info that what people are craving is engagement. Like, what I want is for you to actually do something with what I'm giving you instead of just bombarding it with information. And so naturally society had to adapt. Like as humans we had to adapt because now you have access to everything. So in the engagement age, which is the second age that comes after that one, our currency is no longer time. You don't spend time looking for information now. It was attention. um, you probably heard uh, well, a lot of people talk about how attention span of a human is now less than a goldfish's attention, right? It's like less than 7 seconds, whatever. And I would argue that that's not the case. I think what's happening is like so much is coming at us that our brains are like, hold on, I need to filter this out. I can't just consume everything. And so whatever gets your attention is what you respond to. And I believe that as business owners, that age has shifted already. Like we're already moving towards something else.
So engagement was also kind of like, okay, you have all this information, you try to grab people's attentions,
Yeah,
and then you bring them into your funnel, right? To eventually
exactly.
convert,
Yeah,
their attention into money
whatever that might be,
or just
exactly.
potential customers.
Yeah, yeah. And so what I was trying to figure out, how can I get someone's attention? Because attention was the first currency they were willing to give me, and then from there lead them down something else. And I think we've shifted already. I think we're now in a new age and a new way of doing things, and a new way of selling, of having relationships, understanding each other. That is called the curation age, which is, by the way, commercial pause, why I love charisma so much, because you guys are curating something for us, you know what I mean? And so the curation age basically says, hey, it's okay if you have time and you give me your time. It's okay if you even give me your attention, but what I really want is your trust. So trust became the currency that not only we as consumers are looking for, but also what brands are actually trying to instill in someone else, like in any consumer out there. And so when I look at the way society has changed over time and how the currency has changed over time, I can't stop thinking how my business needs to adapt to that and needs to look at it and understand, okay, there's different ways for me to even create something as simple as a landing page. Because now I'm no longer asking for your time. That means I'm not going to give you 20 pages to read. I'm not asking you for attention. Everybody has seen those like bouncy buttons, right? And the shape and all the colors and whatever. Now I'm saying, hey, will you trust me? Yeah,
And how do you actually build
yeah,
trust with a customer as a brand
yeah.
when there's so much noise and competition out there?
Yeah. Um, I think one of the main things for me is first I stopped seeing competition to begin with. I believe there's a path that I'm curating for someone that only I can curate, and so that gives me the freedom to think about my business without the interference of any other components to that. And so I never see it as somebody needs to lose something so I can win. There's a path that is mine. I don't worry about the competition. But to answer your question more specifically, I think nothing builds more trust than storytelling. So I need to figure out, by the way, as humans, we've been wired for storytelling. So I need to figure out what's the story that this person is actually experiencing. What are they looking for? What's the A to B that they're hoping for? And how can my brand bridge that? How can I bring them from a scenario where they're in to something that they want to do? You do that with text. You do that with videos. Honestly, you do that even with visuals, right? Because you can show them visually either where they are, where they want to be. I just find it fascinating that how psychology has actually a very important piece in all of this. So many people have said that we're wired for storytelling. But all of us can relate to the scenario where somebody says something to you in a dinner party or a conversation, and then you go home and you're like, wait a minute, what do they mean with that? Like, why do they say that? And so whenever some pieces of the story are missing, your brain wants to fill it in. You want to fill in all those missing spots. Like, are they upset with me? Is that like, do they think that I was this or that? Is that happening in the background? Like, the way that we fill in that gap is always with story. Somebody's a hero, somebody's a villains, there's a challenge, there's something that needs to be overcome, you know?
And of course, I mean,
Yeah.
storytelling fundamental.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know first, what are the key fundamental pieces of good storytelling?
Good storytelling.
First of all, and then I have a last
Yeah,
question for
yeah.
you.
So for me, you have to have an A to B. Like there's always a where am I and where I want to be. And there's something in the middle that either prevents you from getting there or that you don't even know how to overcome. And so it's either an obstacle, sometimes invisible, we don't even know it's there, but we kind of keep being in that place of like feeling stuck. Which is one of the things we hear the most, actually. People come to us normally saying something like, I just feel like I'm going in circles or I'm stuck. I don't really know where to go. It's the whole spaghetti throwing, like I'm just throwing stuff up in the air, seeing if something sticks. And so the obstacle may very well be something that you don't even know, you can't put your finger on it. Or it can be something that you already
It's a
identify
problem
as a
that the
brand.
hero of the story needs to overcome.
Yeah.
Right?
And sometimes it's a desire. Like sometimes it's just like I want to be in B, but I don't know how to get there. And so having someone that curates that path to B is sometimes what brands are doing. So not everything a brand does is to solve a problem. It could be satisfy a desire.
I love what you said because one of my favorite marketing books is Building a Story Brand.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest mistakes that brands get wrong is they position themselves as the heroes of the story.
Yeah.
When the hero of the story is the
Is the
customer
person.
who has a specific challenge, and then
Exactly.
the brand comes in as the guide,
Yeah.
like a Yoda,
Yeah.
you know, proposes
Exactly.
an actual plan
Yeah.
to overcome this problem,
Yeah.
meaning the hero then embarks on a journey,
Yeah.
right? And there's a clear kind of better tomorrow that is presented,
better vision.
but also, you know, what happens if you actually don't follow this path, right? What could this
Exactly.
potential not so good tomorrow look like
Yeah.
if you don't take action or you fail along the way?
Yeah.
And I think that's like super, super important
Yeah.
when it comes to, you know, also building your story.
Yeah.
And of course, I think the story and the framework we just talked about
Yeah.
is somewhat the what, but then it's also how you communicate the story.
Yeah.
And I think there it really is a lot about, you know, being fully authentic in the way you communicate the story because nobody can ever be like you.
Exactly.
And especially in today's world where there's just too much noise, too many people creating content, telling
Yeah.
stories, you know,
Yeah.
and people trying to sell you things, it's more important than ever to obviously do proper storytelling, but in a way that feels truly authentic to yourself.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's actually a very good point, Mark, because I feel like sometimes we inherit or import or steal things from other people that just feel like a hand-me-down. So you're kind of like, oh, that person recorded a video this way, or they've done this, the copy this way. And in reality, what you're doing is you letting go of who you are. Which might lead into our second question today, so I'll leave it for that. But when you think of the way that you exist in the marketplace, or even how you exist as a person, for so many years we were put into boxes that we're trying to fit in, you know, and those boxes feel very tight or very like I don't know, like a weird shape where I'm just trying so hard to fit when in reality what you need to do is the opposite and be like, hey, someone will say yes to this because I said it and because I said it this way.
I wonder what kind of content or just what content people would create or how they would communicate if they would never get an opportunity to see what other people are actually putting out there.
Sorry, yeah.
So, what do you think brands and
Yeah.
founders get wrong about niching down?
So I love this question because if there's one thing I've been very passionate about is understanding niching down in the first place. Because again, you have so many gurus saying the riches are in the niches, and you got all these theories about you just pick a niche. But you know what always intrigued me was like, okay, you're telling me to do this, but I want to understand why. I don't want to just take it as like a rule and do it. Like there has to be a reason why people are saying this. And so what I came to find out, and I was very resistant to niching, I thought I'm going to leave money on the table. I don't want to work just with dentists. It just felt like, oh, really? Like that's the only type of client I get to work with. The work is going to be boring. Like I don't have experience in that niche. Like all these questions kept me from actually moving forward. But what I realized is that niching down is basically you saying, hey, I'm going to laser focus. And so what happens when you put a lot of energy into one point, you can actually penetrate it way faster than if you just like, little flashlights here and there. So I would rather have a laser than a bunch of flashlights.
I guess a good way to look at it visually as a metaphor is like you have these things that like these ancient, like platforms with like needles that you step on, acupuncture stuff.
Yes.
Right? You feel like, okay, I'm gonna die, by stepping on these, but then you step on all these hundreds of needles,
and nothing happens.
I mean, maybe it hurts a little bit, but it doesn't actually like go through your skin.
Yeah.
But if you were to just sit on one, I bet that
You'd
would
be dead.
fucking hurt.
For sure. Well, the difference is that when you put your intention on it, it happens at any level in business and in life. Whatever you have coming to you right now, as far as leads, partnerships, whatever, they will continue to come. Whatever's working will continue to work. But if I say, hey, my niche is going to be, let's say, dentist, right? My niche is going to be, I don't know why I keep using dentist.
I was like, I didn't know you worked with dentists.
We actually did. And then I gave up, you know why? I got fed up of all of the before and after pictures. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's like, it's so funny. Okay, pool builders. So, you want to work with pool builders, right?
Yeah,
and I'm like, if somebody else comes my way, they will come my way anyways. Because right now what I'm doing is no intentionality about it. Zero. And so what's working? Word of mouth, being in the right place at the right time, going to an event and meeting somebody. So all of that will continue to work. But when it comes to my marketing, when I position myself, I go in one direction. I go where pool builders hang out. I go to the events that they put together. I read the magazines that they read. I read the podcast. I watch the podcasts that they watch. And so it's being in the place where they hang out so you can become more visible in that. And so I always recommend create not a business plan, a visibility plan. So how am I going to be visible in the pool building industry? Are there events around me? Are there podcasts? Are there writers? Are there speakers? Are there whatever? And you just become visible within that group of people.
Love it.
So, but then I realized, wait a minute, the more I focus on an industry, the easier it is to get clients. And so suddenly it gave me the option of like, wait a minute, I don't have to say no to the dentist now because now I have enough pool builders to go with, Mm-hmm. So it creates it's like you have more of a power to choose instead of just taking whatever clients come your way. I mean, raise your hand if you ever took a client that you shouldn't have because you needed the money in that moment, right? Exactly. So it's like, we've all done that. It's like, not all money is good money, but man, right now I just need money, period, whatever that is.
And sometimes you have to prioritize at the beginning of your business to then be able to reinvest into the company and make it grow and actually improve the overall experience. But wrapping up, I'd love to know very quickly, who are you? And what is the biggest value you've gotten from joining Charisma so far?
Yeah.
Can be an anecdote, maybe it was a friend you met, maybe it was a lesson you got from one of the select think tanks.
Yeah.
Curious to know.
It's a combination of everything. So my name is Barbara. If we haven't met yet, I'm half Brazilian, half Portuguese. We moved to Barcelona almost a year ago. So for me, I was specifically looking for community, but I'm looking for the weirdos. I want to find the weird people, the crazy people. I want to find the ones that don't want to fit in that box that I was forced to fit in. And I believe there are more like me out there, you know, that want to design their life and want to design their businesses. And so I was looking for that, and I was kind of looking, but Charisma was the first one that felt like these are my people, and I think these are the people that are willing to not sit in what life has given them and just try to build something, even if they don't feel like the resources are there for it. Like, figure it out, you know, there's a way around this. And I think that's what I found. I found people that are willing to think outside of that box, that are willing to even help me see my business differently. I want somebody to help me see my blind spots. And, you know, we all live in a bubble that we can't see our business 100%. So I wanted those voices, and the voices that would have the courage to tell me, instead of just like, you know, we've probably been in groups where there's that lack of, who's going to tell her that she has spinach in her teeth? You know what I mean? Like, I want people to be able to say, hey, you're not doing this thing in your business. Why is it? And so to have voices that have nothing to lose but still are willing to go there has been amazing. I love my group. We have, it's so diverse. That's another thing, is like, nobody would think that this group would work so well together, and it does. So. Yeah.
Well, what's amazing is you and all the love you put into, you know, everything you do, whether it's your business, the group you're in inside of Select. Always, you know, whenever someone has a question in the group chat, you're always the first one ready to answer, and I'm extremely grateful for that. Yeah. And thank you so much for taking the time. Yeah. It was amazing chatting with you.
Thank you, Mark.
Isa.
There you go.
Amazing. Great.